right. So for this class, I am using a blanket. And if you notice, I have it folded pretty small and then I rolled it up pretty tight. And I would suggest going ahead and doing that. And the neater and smoother the roll is, the more comfortable it's going to be for you for what we're using it for. And once we're finished at the beginning, you can use it for your knees if you need it for your knees. I'm also going to give you the option, and I will demonstrate it, but I will use the blanket, but I'll demonstrate it. I like a squishy ball better than the blanket for what we're going to use it for. So I will demonstrate those options if you have a squishy ball, but they are definitely not necessary. I have a resistance band. It's not really tight tension, but it's not the lightest one either. You will find that the heavier the tension is, the easier it becomes in this. So I am going to suggest, I don't know what the poundage is on this one, but if you got a full set, this is like the third up from the resistance. And then I have a block and a foam roller. So those are all the things that we will be using. You can put the foam roller off to the side of your mat. We're going to use the block right away. And we're going to use everything else right away. So this class, we are focused on mostly the lumbar spine. So the lumbar spine is that region of your spine between the bottom of your rib cage and the top of your pelvis. We will also be doing some more of that pelvic movement because in order to access flexion and extension in your lumbar spine, you will have to tilt your pelvis in order to help access that. We will mainly be focusing on flexion of the lumbar spine, which is rounding of the lumbar spine. But we will have some rotation and even some side bending of the lumbar spine. Actually, the rotation is more thoracic, but it helps to access that rotation, limited rotation we have in our lumbar spine. I will make a side note. I am going to be using some cues that I don't typically use. I will be saying pull your belly towards your spine because when we go into lumbar flexion, the pulling of your lower belly into spine will help you access lumbar flexion. I will also be saying tuck your pelvis a lot because again, tucking the pelvis is going to help you access lumbar flexion. So when I often say that I don't think there's any bad movements, I believe that. But this is one of those classes where something that we sometimes think is a bad thing. I do those because there are reasons for us to be able to access all movement. So with that, we are going to start on our knees. You can also do this seated on the edge of a chair. So if being on your knees is uncomfortable, you can do this seated on the edge of a chair. You're going to take your block at the second level. So if this is the top level and this is the bottom, this is the second level. And you're going to take the block right between your upper thighs. If being this low, you can prop your hips up on a second block or pillows. So just know that that's an option. I'm going to show this with the ball first, just to show that you do have an option to use the ball like so, but we're going to use the blanket. So you're going to take the blanket and you're going to place the blanket right on top of where the block is. As you come forward, you want to try to bring the blanket underneath the bottom of the rib cage. So we're going to come forward and try to adjust the blanket so it is, or the ball, underneath the bottom of your rib cage. So it is in your belly area. You're going to bring your elbows down to the ground. And then you're going to start to let your head hang towards the floor. If it rests on the floor, awesome. If it doesn't, just let it hang heavy. And then in this position, you're going to start to breathe deeply. You're going to feel the expansion of the belly towards the blanket on your inhales, but really focus on the exhales. So as you exhale, stretch out the length of your exhale. And think of melting over the blanket. So your exhale might be as long as twice as long as your inhale. On the last two of these in this position, at the bottom of your exhale, you're going to try to even round over the blanket. So think of taking your rib cage towards your pubic bone and your pubic bone towards your rib cage. So kind of create a crunch at the bottom of your exhale. And do that twice. So let the exhale empty all the way out. And when you get to the bottom of it, create that crunch over the blanket. Good. Use your hands to press up. Stay with it underneath your rib cage and walk your hands off to the right. You're going to drop your right elbow down to the ground and walk your left hand as far forward as you can so the elbow does not rest on the ground. That arm is strong. And we're going to start first by just taking 3 to 5, same kinds of breath that we started with in the middle. So nice long exhales, allowing everything to soften as you exhale. Maybe even feel that release of your belly towards your spine without forcing it. And start to notice how your right side or your left side gets really long and your right side is shorter. On the last 2 exhales, we're going to try to do that little crunch, but you're just going to do it on the right side and right front. So at the bottom of your exhale, kind of crunch a little bit more on the right front side of your rib cage. Inhale, let it relax. And as you exhale, let it soften at the very bottom of your exhale. Create that extra side crunch and front crunch on the right side of your rib cage. Good. Walk your hands through the middle and walk them all the way off to the left. Drop your left elbow down to the ground. Start to crawl your right fingertips forward as you let your head grow heavy towards the floor. And then 3 to 5 long exhales on this side. Start to acknowledge the expansion on the right side of your rib cage. And notice the shortening on the left side of your rib cage. And for the last 2 exhales, again, now we're focusing on shortening a little bit more on the front and side of the left side of your rib cage. Wait to the bottom of your exhale and then exaggerate at that crunch. Inhale, let it go. And last time, let the exhale be soft all the way to the bottom. And when you feel you're almost there, create that extra crunch between the top of your pelvis and your rib cage on the left side. Good. Crawl the hands back through the center. Shift the pelvis a little side to side in the center. And then walk your hands up. I'm going to remove the blanket, just set it off to the side of your mat. You can go ahead and remove the block. We're going to stay in this position. If you need a break from this position, just come up, take a couple of cat-cows, not thinking too much about the cat-cows. If you want to shift to where the block is underneath your sit bones, if you need a break of being bent that deep in your knees, you the position with your sit bones on the block, and you're going to take your resistance band. You're going to take it and you're going to place the resistance band, double looped, right at the top of your pelvis. So if you were to put your hands on what we call the hips, the band will be right above that in the squishy part of your low back, not the hard part of your pelvis. Then you're going to take your hands. If you have handles on your resistance band, you can use that. If you have loops, loop your hands so that the bands are on the palms. And then you're going to come forward and place the hands on the floor right in front of your knees. So now you have some feedback in your low back. You're going to allow the low back to pull your low back forward. Feel your hip points, those bony, sticky out points at the front of your hips, fold down towards the tops of your thighs. And your sit bones reach back towards the back of the block. And then as you exhale, you're going to tuck your pelvis and push that part of your into the band. So as you inhale, let your pelvis tilt all the way forward, feeling your spine resist out of the belt or the band. And then as you exhale, push the low back into the band and pull the hip points off the thighs. So each inhale, feeling the pelvis tilt forward, low back extend. Each exhale, feel the low back round and the pelvis tuck backwards. Do that a few more times, just feeling what it feels like to move into the resistance band. Notice that the rest of your spine doesn't really have to move. You don't have to arch or round your lower back. You can keep that relatively still and keep all of the movement just in the low back. Next time you exhale, stay in that, or exhale, stay in that rounding or that flexing and just hold here. Try to think of peeling your pubic bone up towards your belly button and pulling your belly button towards the spine. Good. Let it go. Slowly walk your hands up onto your knees. Remove the band. Bring the hands to the tops of your thighs and see if you can isolate that movement without the band there. So you can think of the sit bones reaching forward and back, kind of tuck and untuck the pelvis. You can think of the band in the lumbar spine and just think of moving that region where you had the band. Or you can think of the exhale, pulling the belly towards the spine to help the round. So whatever cue works for you, keep that in your mind throughout the class, because we're going to return to that same movement again and again and again. You can now move the block off towards the front of your mat. So just take it out of the way. You're going to have your band close by. I'm going to show you one thing before we come onto our backs. So just watch before you come onto your back. If you have a band with handles, I would suggest putting the handles around your foot. If you have a band like mine, I'm going to suggest doubling up the band and placing it in the arch of your foot. And that might not work. That won't work. You're just going to put the loop around. How we're going to do this, you're going to take the band and wrap it around the back of your calf to the outside of your calf. You're going to reach across with your left hand and hold it with your left hand. If you watch my leg for a second, when I pull off to the left, you're going to see my leg rotate in, right? That's what we want. We want this leg kind of set in internal rotation. So that's why we're wrapping it. So as we get to that, just know that's what I'm going to be asking for. So just drop the band off for a moment. We're going to do some things before that. Come down onto your spine. Bring your hands to those bony, sticky out points, your hip points. We're going to start with some pelvic tilt. So as you exhale, that part of your spine that you felt the band on, push that into the low back. And as you inhale, pull that region off the floor. So this is our first area that we can start to feel the action of flexion and extension in our lumbar spine. So just see, can you make that happen from where that band was on your low back? Another cue that might be helpful is to think of the pubic bone and the tailbone. And as you inhale, you're taking your pubic bone towards the floor. And as you exhale, you're taking your tailbone towards your pubic bone. So do it a few times and see how that cue works for you. You want to feel less pressing of the feet down on the floor and more of moving it with your core. And then the final one are those hip points themselves. You can think of pushing the hip points towards the tops of your thighs and then peeling them away. So whichever one of those cues works for you in this position, keep that cue in mind. And the next time you take your spine towards the floor, start to lift the hips off the floor. And then as you exhale, push it back down. Start to push the lower back, peel the lower back off the floor. And as you inhale, roll it back down, one vertebrae at a time. Shift the hands to the bottom of your rib cage. We're not going to allow the rib cage to lift. So we're just isolating this movement in the lower back. Lifting the ribs is not wrong, but that's not what we're focused on today. So can you keep this one by one vertebrae? So isolating each section of your low back to lift and lower your spine off the floor. The next time you lower the low back off the floor, reach the hands between your or beside your thighs, look between your thighs, and now roll up. Head looking between the knees, and then roll upper back down, one vertebrae at a time. Then lift the pelvis. So we're going to alternate between the pelvis and lifting up from the low back down. Crunch.
Can you tell me like what I should not be feeling in my rib area just to make sure that I'm not flaring them? Like, should I not feel it expand? What should I not feel to make sure that I am moving it from the pelvis?
Your ribs should, when your low back is on, when you are lifting your hips, I don't lift the ribs at all. They're staying down. So I could do this, right? That is a hip bridge, but that's not what we're focusing on today. We're trying to really isolate that movement just in the low back. So I have my hands on my rib cage because I don't want them to lift at all, right? Today. Can you see it, Lisa?
No, I can see it. I just don't feel that I normally can do a good job of it, and I don't think I'm controlling it as well as I should be.
Don't overthink it. Can you feel yourself segmentally move your lower back?
I am like, we have worked on it so much that I understand like we're just going up in one section, right? So we're normally we roll, and today we're not.
Normally we go all the way up, right?
Okay.
And that's not wrong. But because I want to isolate just this region, we're not lifting the rib cage off the floor. In fact, when I get so high, I push my ribs down.
Oh, wait, okay. Okay. Never mind. So we're not going all the way up. You just did it.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
I push when it feels like I'm going to get to the point where my ribs are going to lift, I'm going to push them down. Yeah. And then the other side, even though we are lifting the rib cage off the floor, we're curling it towards the floor still. because we're trying to round the low back towards the floor in order to get that upper body crunched, right? So when we're in this position, the low back is on the floor, belly towards spine. And you do want to notice if you get that little bulging, you want to resist that bulging as you crunch up. So take a break from doing that. We're going to move on to adding on another layer to this. So we're going to start out the same way. So heels in line with your hips. You're going to peel your lower back up off until the rib cage, ribs push towards the floor. One segment at a time, back down, chin towards chest, and then crunch up. You're going to lower down. This time, you're going to lift the knees, pull them towards your chest, and maybe lift the pelvis off the feet. Come back down. Exhale, peel the spine off, one vertebrae at a time. Inhale, back down. Head towards chest, crunch up, belly towards spine. Inhale, roll back down, one vertebrae at a time. Exhale, knees lift, round your lower back to lift your pelvis. Slowly lower the feet back down. Do this one more time. Inhale. Exhale, peel the lower back only off as you hip bridge. Push one vertebrae back down. Exhale, chin towards throat. Exhale, belly towards spine. Crunch. One vertebrae down at a time. Next, exhale, knees lift towards chest, hands push down, pelvis lifts off. Good. Release and windshield wiper your knees side to side. So in that movement, we went into lumbar flexion and extension. We also want to be able to stabilize the spine in neutral. So for this next round of work, we're going to do that. And this is where I showed you what to do with the band. So we're going to take your band, place it around the arch of your right foot. If you have a handle, place both handles around your right foot. Then you're going to take the band on the inside of your right calf. So wrap it around the inside of your right calf, not the outside. And then as you take it around, it comes around the outside of the right calf. Take it in your left hand and just tug, and notice how it rolls the entire leg in. And then you can bend your left elbow and rest it on the ground if you're able to. We're going to start by finding neutral in the spine. So now if your low back is on the floor, tilt the pubic bone towards the tailbone or hip points towards the thighs to find more of that neutral. And keep the ribs moving towards the floor. Left knee starts out bent. You're going to lift the knee even with your right knee. Then tap the heel down. Lift the knee even with your right knee. And then tap the heel down. If you're able to do this one more time with nothing moving other than the leg and the hip joint, you can straighten the left leg. Flex both feet. As you exhale, lift your left leg up to meet your right leg. Inhale back down. So we're going to do this 10 times. The right leg is staying still. You're lifting the left leg with each exhale. As you lift, you are monitoring your pelvis. You want the pelvis to stay perfectly still. So exaggerating that exhale with like a shush or blowing out candles will help to stabilize the core. You're monitoring your rib cage. You want your rib cage to not flare away from the floor. So the spine is staying relatively still as we do 2 more leg lifts. If you feel that there is a lot of movement, you want to bend the knee, right? Because the purpose here is to find more of that neutral. Let the band go, but keep the right leg where it is. So now we're going to challenge our core and our hip flexion a little bit more by not holding that right leg still with a band. You have to hold it still. Keep the spine and pelvis in neutral as you lift and lower the left leg 5 more times. I like to take my hands onto the bottom of my rib cage or onto my pelvis so that I can feel if it is moving. I also want my belly to harden and not pooch out. Lift 1 more time, and you're going to take the left leg down halfway. So both legs are straight. Reach your arms up towards the sky. As you exhale, now you're going to go into that flexion. So you're going to round and lift your upper body. Inhale, arms reach over the head, extend the spine. Exhale, round. 2 more. Each time exhale, think belly to spine to round your lower back. So as you lift up, you feel the lower back. Move into the ground, hold, and we're going to pulse ribs towards pubic bone. 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Release, draw both knees in towards your chest. Good. Now we'll go to the other side. So wrap the band around your left foot. You're going to take the band or the handles, if you have handles on your resistance band. Take the band around the inside of your calf. Wrap it around the inside to where it comes around to the outside. And then as you tug with your right hand, feel the leg bone roll inward slightly. Lift the low back off the spine off the floor, without flaring the ribs. So cinch the top of your core. Keep the right knee bent and lift and lower the right leg just a few times to see, can you lift the leg without the spine or the pelvis moving? If you can, straighten the leg. Otherwise, keep the right leg bent, and you're going to lift and lower the right leg to meet your left leg. So we'll do this 10 times. We start by monitoring, is our pelvis still? You can use your hands to feel if you feel the pelvis move in any direction. You can start to notice if the ribs start to flare as you lift or lower. And then finally, notice if your belly is pooching out in order to stabilize, or you're holding your breath. The more you exert that forceful exhale, you're going to feel your belly tighten instead of bulge out. And all of that helps to keep our core functioning properly. Good. Next time you lift, you're going to drop the band, keep the left leg where it is. And then 5 more, lift and lower. Again, if you have trouble stabilizing your spine or your pelvis or your rib cage, or even the bulging out of the core, continue to use the band, right? We don't want to do something just because it's the next step. We want our core to actually behave responsively. And if you do something just because, that doesn't help. Lower the right leg about halfway. Reach the arms up towards the sky. Now we're going into that spinal flexion. So as you exhale, crunch and curl up. Good. Take belly to the spine. Each time you roll up, spine to the floor. 3, 4. On the 5th one, we're going to pulse for 5, 4, belly, in, and done. Pull both knees in towards your chest. Rock a little side to side. Take your band back to your right foot. We're going to straighten the right leg to the ground. You want a fair amount of tension on your band. So gather the band up with both hands. If you are using a one with handle, I would say put the handles around the foot and gather at the band. So there's quite a bit of tension on the band. First, start by lifting the head and looking down at your right toes. Round the spine up as you lift all the way up. And then fold towards your right foot. Keep both feet on the ground as you let yourself come back to the floor one vertebrae at a time. We're going to do this 4 more times. Round as you exhale. Come all the way up and then fold towards your right foot. Curl your belly towards your spine. Tuck your pelvis to roll back down. 3 more. Exhale to round and go back down. I do both the up and the down on the exhale because I want the exhale to help me curl around into that flexion. At the very top, I tilt my pelvis and reach my spine so I get that little bit of extension as we go towards the right foot. The next time you roll down, you're going to allow the right leg to lift. Good. As you come up, bring the right leg down. We'll just do this 3 times. So as you round, let the right leg lift. Good. And as you roll back up, let the leg help pull you up. Last time. And go ahead and switch the foot. So wrap it around either the band or your handles around your left foot. Cinch up pretty far on your band so that you have a fair amount of tension to help pull you up. And then as you exhale, tuck the pelvis, round the spine segmentally down. And as you come up, look at your foot and exhale to round up. So we are looking at our foot in order to of flexion so that we are not using our neck muscles. We're using our core muscles to pull us up instead of chin towards the sky, which is going to force the neck muscles to work. We'll do 1 more. So round up. And this time, as you go down, let the leg lift. Good. Curl up. At the top, reach your chest and your hip point towards the top of your thighs. So you are getting that little anterior tilt to do the opposite of the tuck, right? You're also getting a little bit of spinal extension as you stretch your chest towards your foot. Next time you come up, stay up. Go ahead and remove the band. I believe we're done with the band. So we're going to bring that blanket back out. Again, the ball is the option. I will show that as an option. And you do want to have your foam roller close by. So we are going to come into a Z set. You also need your block close by. I'll show another option with the ball with that. So the Z set, and this is very specific, so I'm going to take the time to break this down. Your right knee is directly in line with your right hip point, so it's not out here, right? Bring it in so it's right in line with your hip point. Your left knee is also in line, so it's not here. It's out in line with your hip. Ideally, your knees are going to be bent to 90 degrees, but if that is too much, you can bring both feet in more for less intensity. If they're in that 90 degree, you're going to have more intensity. We are working both hips, this one in external rotation, this one in internal rotation. Option 1 is to take the ball and again, scoot it on the inside of your right thigh, underneath your rib cage, and come forward. If you don't have ball, we're going back to that blanket. So you're going to bring it in there tightly in your groin and then roll forward. Bring your elbows to the ground or hands walk forward if the elbows don't go to the ground. Let the head hang. And go back to that breathing that we did at the beginning of the class. Ideally, you feel the blanket tucked underneath your rib cage. You're going to start to just move the rib cage side to side, creating a little shearing action with either the ball or the blanket right at the bottom of the rib cage. You might have some tension in this area. This is where your oblique muscles cross over and the internal obliques attach, your transverse abdominis, your diaphragm, even your rectus abdominis. So there might be some tender spots. It's always nice to kind of get that shearing action. And then we're going to repeat what we did that first time. As you exhale, think of rounding or curling more and crunching, but this time we're going to hold it. So find that rounding or crunching and hold for about 10 more seconds. So really try to curl your rib cage over your blanket. Continue to breathe, but hold that crunch. Good. Go ahead and come up. For this, if you have a ball, you're going to use the ball. You're going to place it right in that same area, so underneath your rib cage. If you don't have a ball, we're going to use the block. So you're going to hold the block in your lower belly, right hand right in line with your hip, so lean over to the right. As you exhale, you're going to twist and kind of curl over the ball or the block. As you inhale, both hands touch the block, twist to the right, left. As you exhale, curl over the ball or the block, crunch towards your right hand. As you inhale, both hands help to steer your rib cage to the left. We'll do more of these. Each time, think of really curling and rounding over the block or the ball. As you inhale, there's a slight lift at the top of the chest, but we're not flaring the ribs off the ball or off the block. And do one more. You're going to replace the block, and we're going to have, if you have the ball, you can use the ball instead of a foam roller. But if you don't have the ball, you're going to place the roller off to the side of your right thigh. Both hands on the foam roller. You're going to start to push down and you're going to round. So it's not a stretch forward. It's like you're curling over that block or ball. Push the block, push the foam roller down and forward, and then inhale, come up. Exhale, round the rib cage towards your right thigh, push the roller, and then come up. We're going to do 3 more. Exhale, round. Inhale, come up. Exhale, curl. Pull belly towards spine and round. 1 more. Good. Let the foam roller go off to the side. You're going to rotate towards your left leg and just twist. Now bring the feet and the left knee together. So I have my left knee on the inner arch of my right foot. I'm going to shift forward, use my hands the first time to come all the way up. So we're coming into a shin box. You can either drop your hands to the floor or take your hands out in front of you and sit back. So hands can come to the floor, or you can squeeze glutes and use your core to pull you back up. Exhale down. Inhale, come up. As you exhale, tilt your hip points to reach the hips back down. Good. Inhale, core glutes lift you up. Last time, tilt to come back down. We're going to come up 1 more time. We're going to bring both hands to the floor and come into a tabletop position. From that tabletop position, move through cat-cow. And don't overthink your cat-cow. Just move through your cat-cow naturally a few times. Just kind of noticing how your spine feels after all that work that we've already started to do. And then come into neutral and see, can you just move your lumbar spine? So you can go back to those cues that we had at the front. Is it moving your tailbone and your pubic bone towards each other to create that lumbar movement? Is it tilting your hip points towards and away from the front of your thighs? Or is it pulling the lower belly towards the spine as you exhale? So minimizing no movement from the ribs up, all of the movement in the low back. Good. We're going to take the right leg straight back. Toe to the ground. Push the floor away. You can always come down to 2 blocks if this is uncomfortable. If you do that to make comfort in your wrist, you won't be able to do the second part of this. You're going to lift your right leg straight off the ground. As you exhale, round your lower back to take knee to nose. Inhale, stretch it back. 2 more just like that. Exhale, round, pull navel to spine, knee to nose. Exhale, round, knee to nose. Stretch it back. We're going to add on this time, stretch your chest towards the front of your mat as you bend your elbows towards your hips. You can skip that and then exhale, round, knee to nose. Inhale, either exhale, round to knee to nose or stretch the chest forward as elbows goes towards hips. 1 more, exhale, round, knee to nose. Inhale, stretch, exhale, either knee to nose or stretch chest forward. Good. Take your right foot up between your hands. Have your block close by. So we're in that half kneeling position. If you need a blanket under your knees, you have a blanket. We no longer need the roll. Take your hands to your hips. First, just start by tucking and untucking the pelvis. So can you find that low back movement in this half kneeling position? Good. Then you're going to find neutral. So somewhere between tuck or untuck, or you can think tailbone reaches straight down towards the ground. It's not tucked forward. It's not reaching back. It's reaching straight down. Grab your block. You're going to take your block between your hands and press into it. So as you press into the block and elbows are pointing straight out, you're going to feel a little connection to your core. We want that. Keep the pelvis in neutral and just start to lean to the right and come out of it. Tilt to the right and come out of it. Tilt to the right. Now crunch, so round over the block and then twist to the right. Pass the block down towards the floor. Bring it back to your chest. Come out of the crunch, come out of the twist. Tilt again to the right. Crunch over the block. Twist around the block and then stretch the block towards the floor. Pull it back to your chest, squeeze the block, come out of the twist, come out of the tilt, come back. Good. 1 more time like that. Tilt, round over the block, twist around the block, and then pass. Stay in this position, pull it towards your chest. Reach it towards the floor, crunch a little bit more. Pull it towards your chest. Reach a little bit more, maybe crunch a little bit more. Reach it towards your chest. Come out of that. Bring the block inside of your right foot. Tall, round your entire spine. Arch your entire spine. Round your entire spine. Arch your entire spine. Round and arch. Bring your right foot back beside your left, right knee back beside your left. Grab your foam roller. You're going to place your foam roller on the tops of your knees. As you lift, you're going to round your spine. As you lower, you're going to tilt the hip points and lower your heels back towards your hips. As you exhale, round and lift. As you inhale, tilt the hip points towards your thighs. So you're getting that pelvis tuck as you lift. You're getting that pelvic tilt forward as you lower. And from the side, I'm really getting that rounding as I lift, and I'm getting the tuck and reach as I lower. So the spine goes into extension. Round, lift, tuck, or reach back. And then bring the roller underneath your knees. You might want to watch this one first because it's hard to explain. So I'm going to come down with it right above my knees, elbows on the ground. I'm going to let my low back drop, and then I'm going to curl up, look at the roller. Reach, keep some integrity on the front of the core, and then round lower back, look at the roller. So try that. Come onto your elbows. Foam rollers right above your knees. As you exhale, round the lower back. Try to round the entire back. Look at the foam roller. As you inhale, stretch the chest towards the thumbs. And exhale, round and lift. Inhale, stretch the spine long. Exhale, round lower back, navel to spine, lift. Let's try one more. Exhale, round and lift. Good. Back it up. Move the foam roller off towards the left side of your mat. And we're going to come into that Z sit and do all of this on the other side. So left knee in line with left hip point, right knee in line with right hip point. Knees as close to 90-degree bend as possible. You're going to take your ball or your blanket. I lied. We have one more thing with our ball. My blanket's really far away, but you have the blanket underneath your rib cage. Fold forward. Elbows to the floor. And just start to shift the rib cage side to side. Breathing deeply. Exaggerating the end of your exhale or exaggerating your full exhale. So lengthening it out. And on your next breath, as you exhale, you're going to create that crunch. So ribs towards pelvis. Round your low back. And hold in that crunch, active crunch position for about 10 more seconds. So actively continue to crunch your rib cage towards your hips. Continue to breathe. Go ahead and come out of that and roll up. You move the blanket out of the way. Bring the foam or the block. Hold the block in your right hand, right underneath your rib cage, left hand out in line with your left hip. As you exhale, imagine crunching around the block. As you inhale, hand comes off, twist to the right. Keep the ribs not flaring into the block. Exhale, twist towards the hand, round over it. Inhale, twist away from the hand. Hand helps to rotate the rib cage towards your back leg. Keep doing it. Really exaggerating that rounding, that crunching over the block as you twist towards your hand, and just lift the top of your chest as you roll away from it. As you twist back towards the hand, go ahead and remove the block out of the way. We're going to switch to the foam roller. So you have it off to the angle on the top of your left thigh. Both hands put. Remember, we're thinking of that rounding of the block. We want to get that crunch. And you can activate the core even more by pushing down on the foam roller as you push out. Good. So moving it this way with the spine straight is fine. It's just not what we're doing today. We're trying to crunch. The more you push down and forward, the more you're going to feel that full activation, not only in the core, but also in the pelvis, in the arms, in the spine. Good. You can move the foam roller out of the way. We are done with the foam roller. You're going to bring your knee inside the arch of your left foot. For the first one, bring the hands down to the floor, push up. So you find that shin box. And then as you exhale, maybe hands come down. Maybe you just tilt the pelvis and lower back down. Maybe hands come to the floor to push you up. Maybe you do it without the hands. Exhale as you come up. Inhale, tilt the pelvis. So you're getting that longer spine to help reach so that your sit bones land on the floor. Next time you come up, stay up. Bring both knees to the ground so you're back in that tabletop position. You're going to take the left leg straight back. Push the floor away. As you inhale, lift the left leg straight up. As you exhale, round the entire spine to bring knee to nose. Inhale, stretch it back. Little spine long. Exhale, round spine. Inhale. We're not relaxing the spine. We're keeping the front of the spine stiff as we stretch the leg back. Now we can add, maybe you bend the elbows and stretch the chest towards the front of your mat. As you exhale, round. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, either round or stretch the chest towards the front of the mat. One more. Exhale, round. Inhale, straighten spine. Exhale, shift forward. Inhale, up. Bring the left leg to the front of your mat. So coming back into that half kneeling position. First, we tuck and untuck the pelvis. Feel how that creates flexion and extension in your lumbar spine. We're going to stop in that neutral. So in that neutral, the tailbone points down, whereas in flexion it tucks, and extension it reaches back. So you want that neutral straight there. Take your block. Press the block between your hands and actively press. It's going to help to stabilize the core, which is going to help to keep everything still as you tilt towards the left just a few times. Can you tilt without moving the pelvis? Next time you tilt, hold the tilt, round over the block, and then twist the block. Reach the block towards the floor off to the left. Pull it back to your chest and come to face forward. Tilt, round forward, then twist, pass the block towards the floor, pull it back in, come out of the twist and the crunch, and then again, tilt, crunch, twist, reach, stay in that reach, and then pull it back to you. Reach it back towards the floor, crunch a little bit more, pull it back towards you, reach it towards the floor, crunch a little bit more, bring it in towards your chest, come out of the crunch and the twist. Bring the block inside of your left foot, round and extend your full spine. So you're going to feel the pelvis tilt. You're going to feel more of the pelvis tilt forward with extension, and you're going to feel the pelvis tuck as you round. Good. Bring both knees back down to the floor. Starting on your knees towards the back of your mat. We're going to now hold that neutral spine. So exhale, lean back. Inhale, shift forward, hands to the ground, round the spine. Lift up, lean back. Bring the hands to the floor, round the spine. Lift up, lean back. Shift forward, hands to the ground, round the spine. Walk forward, down onto your belly. Elbows underneath your shoulders. Palms to the ground. Look at your chest. So tilt your chin to look at your chest. Lift your chest out of the way, see your belly. Lift your belly out of the way, see the tops of your thighs. Keep the tops of your feet on the floor. Lift your knees. Lower the knees, lower the thighs, lower the pelvis. Look between your thumbs. Look at your chest. Lift the chest out of the way. Look at your belly. Lift the belly out of the way. Look at your thighs. Keep the fronts of the feet. Lift the thighs, knees off the floor. Lower down. Thigh, pelvis, belly. Stretch the chest towards the thumbs. One more time. Look at your chest. Lift the chest out of the way. Look at your belly. Lift the belly out of the way. Look at your thighs. Lift the knees. Look at your feet. Keep the lift. Look between your arms. Lower the knees. Lower the thighs. Lower the pelvis. Lower the belly. Stack your head on your hands and shift your hips side to side. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders. Press up through hands and knees. Touch your toes. Tilt your hip points towards the fronts of your thighs and reach your sit bones towards your heels. Lower your forehead towards the floor. So child's pose, shift hips side to side.